Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Star Road Podcast featuring your boys, Sterling and Tyler. How you doing today, Tyler?
I'm doing pretty well, Sterling. Feeling pretty fresh on this fine Sunday.
After the big 51 celebration, my brother.
Yeah. A little bit of a more down-tempo kind of episode today. Like, we're just back on cozy topics that we love.
Quite a bit. And some shit we've been meaning to talk about but haven't really.
Quite a bit, yeah. That seems to always be the case.
And I'm pulling this up on the fly. I think the date might line up with something a bit interesting. I think this might be like a day or two away from the 2-year anniversary of the podcast.
Absolutely.
I'm just taking a look here, not to bog anything down, but
we're right there at it for sure.
Definitely. But the program for the day, the discussion, we're talking about the RE4 remake. There's not a lot to work with.
No, we don't have a whole lot of info on this, but
we
certainly
got a lot to say.
Yeah, we do have a lot to say and speculate on for sure.
Let's see. I'm trying to get what this date is right here, just because I feel like this is important.
Yeah, it might be our 2-year anniversary spectacular. I feel like it is one way or the other.
9/13/20.
Nice.
And today's the 11th. How you like that shit? I knew it, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. A happy 2 years.
Happy 2 years indeed, my friend. But the top 5 today after the RE4 talks, we're doing a bit of a list that's coming together with each other.
It's a mix-up. Like top five indie staples and hidden gems. I tackled the staples. Sterling tackled the hidden gems. So we're going to be talking about 10-ish indie games in total. And, you know, kind of covering both sides where there's some unknowns or things we don't very much talk about. And then also just kind of recapping, like, what are the heavy hitters in the world, or at least in our world, right? And a lot of people would agree with most of these games. Your
list definitely covered a good bit of the heavy hitters for me, so there's going to be a lot for me to talk about with your list.
Yeah, no question.
So it's just an all-around good program, man. But we always kick it off with news. And I always love kicking it off with a beautiful new console. And we got just that with this Pokemon Scarlet and Violet OLED that's coming out.
Yeah, this thing is pretty exciting.
This is really nice, man. You know, it was one thing to see new iterations of the original Switch. But the OLED still is so new to me, the dock and everything, you know. Mm-hmm. Just the little details they put on this shit, crazy. Like the little Pokeball on that circular back portion of the OLED dock and shit, you know?
Yeah.
But above all, the color, man. When they first showed the back of this thing, I'm like, holy shit. I mean, I think they went crazier with this one than the Splatoon one, which is wild, considering the game is about explosions of colored ink.
Yeah, they went all out to the point where if you didn't know, certain aspects of this wouldn't even strike you as Pokemon. Like if you weren't up to date on what's going on with Scarlet and Violet, this looks like a Square Enix RPG.
Yeah, you got the legendaries on the front of the dock, but like you said, nothing
even
is
those,
immediately 100%.
They don't look like Pokemon like you are used to, right? And I think that's a good thing.
Definitely. They look more like a Final Fantasy boss.
Exactly. And I think that's awesome. And especially when you see him silhouetted like this, it gives it a very epic feel, and I really like that.
And now we have another purple Joy-Con. That's always a good thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, I really like the combination of these two. Let's just get it out of the way, Sterling. We've talked at length in the past about purchasing the OLED and stuff like that. What's your opinion on this? Do you see yourself interested in actually purchasing this?
You know what, dude? We haven't really talked about the OLED upgrade. It's not something we talked about, but it's something I've thought more and more about as time goes by. Just thought about. Now, this is definitely the one I think I'd jump on at the moment.
I can definitely see why you would say that.
either this or just the clean white one that comes as it is. I actually like that basic look to it, but I don't know, man.
But if you were going to get one, how could you pass up on this?
I don't see a way to. But have you ever considered getting an OLED at any point?
When it came out, I feel like we talked about it on the podcast a little bit, how both of us were kind of in the mindset of like, unless it plays games that my current Switch doesn't, I don't have much interest in upgrading consoles. For me, that is still the case. I don't have a need for this, and especially with my Switch usage having gone down overall, of course I've been playing it a lot super recently, but I just don't see the value in purchasing this upgrade for myself. But I wouldn't fault you or anyone for doing it because it is sick, and I think it would be cool. And
I don't see the OLED upgrade as necessary, but I feel like if I had a timeline on how long our current Switch state was going to stay,
sure,
its current state, I think I might make a decision based off of that. But until we get any type of clear indicator of that, I think I'm gonna stick with mine.
Yeah, I'm mostly in the same place though.
The Steam Deck, I mean, that's all you have to say.
Yeah, and of course that's the unspoken thing here, but I do think it's pretty cool. Like, if I was a new Switch owner, this would be a no-brainer for me. Like, if I was buying a Switch for the first time, that is.
Definitely. This is like a Smash Ultimate Edition type of situation.
Definitely, or Animal Crossing, like the Animal Crossing Switch.
Yep.
That's one I do sort of regret, right? Because I did get my Switch not terribly long before the AC one came out, and I was like, man, that would have been awesome, but never really found the motivation to actually purchase another console, especially because in the time after that one released, it was extremely hard to get them for a reasonable price, right?
And a lot of these special editions are hard to get after launch, really.
Yeah, but they did print the Animal Crossing one to demand, to the point where you can get them for a reasonable price now.
Yeah, you can get them shelf price. I see them all the time.
So that is encouraging. I hope this ends up being that way as well, because I feel like anybody who wants this should be able to get it.
And a $50 price difference from the base model V2, whatever you want to call it.
I said it before, man.
Not bad.
I think the base model should be discontinued in favor of the OLED. I don't think the price difference is significant enough.
It's not, but I think they're wise in not discontinuing it though.
Okay.
Because I think people are still gonna, for their kids or something like that, people not as in the know as us, they're gonna see it as, oh, this one's $50 less. I'm gonna get this one. Same thing with GameStop. Oh, this is pre-owned and it's $5 less. I'm going to get this instead of a sealed one. Mm-hmm. Shit that makes no sense to us, but makes perfect sense to them.
Hey, I've bought some pre-owned games before, man. I don't see anything too wrong with it, but they have to be perfect for me.
No, but the price difference just to me, it completely puts me off of purchasing pre-owned. Just from them specifically.
It depends on the game for me.
$5 off though, Tyler? $5 off, and the difference is you got a factory fresh game, or you got some game that somebody did whatever with and brought into GameStop and got paid chicken shit for.
It's not something I do these days, I'll admit, but back in the day when money was tighter, for sure.
Oh, I'm with you on that. Yeah,
that's more of what I'm saying is I wouldn't begrudge anyone who does, purchase pre-owned with that in mind, knowing that I've been there before,
A lot of people are there, and I think that's why the base model still sells like hotcakes.
I guess I did answer my own question there, so fair enough. Fair play.
The next thing on the news that we're going to talk about, I'm very excited to talk about, and it's something you actually revealed to me. And upon revealing it to me, I look into it, and I'm in love with this, Tyler. It's Tactics Ogre Reborn for the Nintendo Switch.
Yeah.
And a few other platforms.
Absolutely.
Which brings us to a crossroads where we have to pick what we're getting it for, and I think we've already agreed. This is a physical or die situation.
On Switch.
So this is going to be a Switch pickup for both of us.
Yeah. shout out to my boy Landon who put me onto this. He just ended up randomly telling me out of nowhere that he had been playing Triangle Strategy for 80, 90 hours, which lines up perfectly with me and with what we're going to be talking about more later.
Our kind of people.
Yep. So he put me onto this game as this in his very next breath. And I'm glad that he did, because he gave me kind of some of the backstory. It's a game that existed in a few different formats for a bunch of older consoles. There was a PS1 version, and I believe a
Super Famicom was the original
version. Yep. And now it's kind of getting a reskin, sort of like Live Alive.
Yeah, Live Alive, Live Alive, whatever you want to call it.
That
man.
game.
Awesome game.
I feel like it's getting a similar treatment to that, in that it's going to get a bunch of extra content. It's being updated visually quite significantly. And I'm excited because this game reminds me a lot of Triangle Strategy. Landon said it's like that, but more in depth by 10 times. So, because there's actually like a more significant character progression system and everything. So hey, sign me up.
Dude, Triangle Strategy is the gold standard. So if anything can top what it does.
His last point that I will mention here is that the guys who made the original Tactics Ogre on Super Famicom, the next game they made was Final Fantasy Tactics.
And that's exactly what I was going to say is, for you and I, the shit we love. We've been talking about Tactics not getting any type of new form of it.
But we've been blessed with Triangle Strategy, and now with this.
With Tactics Ogre Reborn, man. As soon as I saw it on the eShop after you mentioned it, I said, oh shit. I said, this is that game Tyler told me about. And I hit it. First screenshot I saw, I was already in love.
Absolutely.
No question. I mean, how could you not?
It feels like whoever made Triangle Strategy was playing this when they went home.
Yeah, no shit.
That's what that's what it looks like to me.
I'm just with it, man. People have their own opinions on the HD, 2D, 2.5D. Keep that shit coming.
I think it looks gorgeous, man.
Live Alive's a gorgeous game. This looks gorgeous. I mean, just keep that shit coming.
Yeah.
And just like Live Alive, this is a $50 Square Enix
physical
full-blown
banger. Yeah.
So
we got a lot of games coming out in the
dude.
next couple months, Starling. We've had a little bit of a reprieve from buying games.
We have. You're right.
At least I know you purchased Xenoblade and maybe one or two other things. I haven't purchased a $50+ game in I don't know how long. It's been a hot minute.
I really think Live Alive and Xenoblade 3 are actually the only two since a major release that we've both
And you had those pre-ordered for as long as possible.
Months and months, yeah, man. But Tactics
excited
Ogre
about
Reborn,
Tactics Ogre.
Completely excited. This isn't even a question. This will be a pre-ordered.
The question is, am I also
up.
going to get it on Steam Deck as well? I think that is the question. And the answer is, we'll see when it goes on sale.
We will. It's cool to see both. You know, I thought it would be another Switch exclusive for a while thing, but it is on both. Which immediately my mind went Steam Deck, but then I said, I've got too much enthusiasm for this to not get it physical.
Did you pull up the listing for the actual physical Switch game? The box art looks incredible.
I did not actually. I haven't even seen the box art. How about that?
I mean, it could be a screenshot from, or not a screenshot, but it could be key art from Triangle Strategy or Diofield Chronicles. Like, it has that same look to it.
Oh, you know what? I think I did see the cover. Yeah, totally, dude. It's got kind of a Bravely Default type of feel to me.
Yep, and Diofield Chronicles we talked about a little while ago, but that's another banger that's coming out pretty soon.
I've got the demo installed. I have not fired it up.
Oh man, I need to.
But there's a demo, and I'm definitely gonna see what's up with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But this next one, man, I think I should let you take the reins on this one. I think I'd be doing you an injustice to not.
Unfortunately, there's not a ton to say, but I did have a buddy hit me up and say, he sent me a link to an article saying there are going to be Steam re-releases at some point of Metal Gear Solid 1, 2, and 3. Now, we don't know anything more than that sentence that I just said. There's a lot more speculation in this article, but I don't need to hear any more. Like, you give me these games on my Steam Deck, I will just disappear. That's all is.
I'm jumping on this shit day one.
Absolutely. And apparently they're going to be separate items as well as a bundle. So to me, that sounds like the price is going to be very high if you want to purchase all three. I hope that I don't come out of pocket $150 on these or something. I would really, really like to not do that, but it's going to be hard not to. I'm hoping they're like $20 each or something. $60 for the bundle. That would be perfect for me.
If it's more than 60 for all three, that'd be
a tough ask.
That'd be fucked up of them, but I'd still want to get it on my Steam Deck though.
It's gonna be tough, man. You really don't have a ton of experience with any of these games, right?
Only played them. One of them briefly when I was younger, and a friend of my dad's let me borrow like a case of games, and I think he had maybe the first one in it. It's funny you were talking about Metal Gear on NES. I've played that, probably more than the 3D ones, and it's ridiculous because these games are great. I already know that.
Well, I'm just excited about the concept of you playing them, and we can geek out about them.
Definitely.
And we've talked about that on the podcast before. We've talked about it privately. I thought the accessibility of these games was sorely lacking. So to see them getting picked up does my heart good.
Yeah, this is just on time. It's crazy.
We'll be keeping track of this as news comes out. Don't worry.
Yeah, whenever there's a date, we're going to be talking about that date and looking forward to it.
Absolutely. We do mention a date.
Oh, do we?
No, we don't. That was my attempt at a segue.
Oh, my segue for that was going to be, it's funny you mentioned geeked out because I'm really geeked out over this next thing we're talking about.
Let's geek.
Gloomwood. I've expressed my interest and enthusiasm for New Blood as it is. I'm a big Dusk fan, Ultra Kill. Everything they touch really is gold. So one of the guys involved in the making of this game is actually David Szymanski, who's behind Dusk. So I'm a huge Dusk fan. This already drew attention as it was. But this game just went into early access. We're going to talk more about it later in the episode.
Yeah.
A couple times. But just for starters, the game has finally gone into early access. It just had a demo up, and that was it. Free demo. But it's officially in early access now.
Love to see that.
Had to buy in week one. And it's a fantastic... we're going to talk more about it. But basically, if you're familiar with Thief, it's funny. Sure. The URL that they put for this game to basically forward you to it. I told you, New Blood is with the memes. They love the funny waste.money. Like you could buy Dusk with that URL.
I see.
So this one's URL, just to give you insight into it, thiefwithguns.com.
Fair enough. Says all we need to know.
Yep. My first impression of it, playing what I have so far, after I bought the early access, it feels like stealthy Dusk. It does feel like Thief with Guns, so it's very true to that. We're going to talk more about that, though. How about we go into gaming and pickups, man?
Let's do it. I'm excited. I think you should start us off talking about yours.
Well, you're going to really enjoy what I've been playing the most recently, and that's been Triangle Strategy.
I do enjoy that quite a bit.
Broke my Xenoblade 3 commitment to chapter per podcast cycle. Didn't get to the next chapter because I dove back into Triangle Strategy, and busy week, man, I got to tell you, but any time that I found to game, I was playing Triangle Strategy.
I can't fault you for it, man.
And
We'll talk about it in a minute, but I have also been playing it significantly. So
you can
alert.
expect me to be making serious progress on this. Without a doubt. Gloomwood, I'm going to be chipping away at on the side, but I don't plan on abandoning triangle strategy like I did. Xenoblade 3 might get a little bit of time from it, but it's still going to be in the works. Switch sports bowling I always bring up because I'm always doing it. Haven't gotten to... I've probably bowled the least in the past 2 weeks and a half since the game came out. But one thing I wanted to mention is that they now have like a random point multiplier that appears on different sports, and it's always on random. So if you hit random, you're going to get like a 1.1 time multiplier on the points you earn. But I found it interesting that this feature just popped up out of nowhere, and it kind of hops around. So when it lands on bowling, I'm like, cool, we're bowling anyway online, so that means we'll get a little bit of a point boost to unlock shit. So that was just worth mentioning.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I've been playing a lot more with Hook because of the patch with the pin action. So when they said you get more payout from hooking, I started really just hooking everything, and I got so good with it. Even after doing the speed run, I'm like, man, I should go back to doing runs with this new patch, because now all the patch, all the runs are going to be listed under patch 1.2. So I might have to hop on there soon, man, and give it a go. I might be able to get a drastically better time than I did with the original version and that pin action. Who knows?
Are people not able to consistently speed run with straight line strats anymore?
I'm not sure, but I feel like if you're not doing the setup list, it's going to be really hard for you to get a good time sliding over and bowling straight, regardless.
I see.
But it says a lot that I checked the board recently, and the top 2 people on the board did it in the new patch.
Nice.
So, that could speak to them getting better and better, or it could have, maybe a little boost with the patch. Who knows?
Nice.
But that's it for me, man. What you got for us?
Well, for me as well, I've also been playing Triangle Strategy.
Yay.
That game, I don't know. I hadn't played it in probably about a month since I beat my Golden Route playthrough on the second playthrough. But it's so funny because you texted me that you had been playing it right like the day that I had really started being like, as soon as I get home, I'm going to fire up Triangle Strategy. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, I hopped on, started into my third playthrough, my second New Game Plus, set it to hard difficulty, and boy, the hardest fight in the game, I'm convinced, is the very first one when Frederica arrives, because you only have 4 characters.
Boat,
yeah, and it's horrible. And in hard mode, that was I had to try it about 4 or 5 times, and I eventually just ended up. You can't. The thing about hard mode, probably New Game Plus, both I think add extra difficulty, but the thing about it is you can't overpower units. If you just stand next to a unit and try and fight them to death, it's not going to work. They're going to kill you in 2 hits and you're not doing any damage to them. So it really adds that tactical element that I love, to where you have to really craft a strategy around the map, and if there's elite enemy units, you have to go and click on them and read their moves and see okay, how am I going to beat this? Because it just gets very difficult. And I love that, man. I like having to try fights a few times and come in with different strategies.
Totally, dude. Totally.
It makes the game feel very rewarding when you do finally beat that fight, because your kind of oddball strategy ended up working perfectly.
Something that is a guilty pleasure of mine on this game is probably the most, I guess you could say trivial. It's the least engaging. But I just love when you go into exploration mode.
Oh, yeah.
That's just my shit, dude. And like we talked about, the fact that you can go through so many mini segments of the game without actually having a battle.
That's for sure.
It's not just battle after battle after battle after battle.
For me, it is now.
I'm talking on my basic playthrough. I'm just the way the game naturally flows.
Yeah, on your main playthrough, that's what you want, because the story is great. Like, I really, really enjoy the exploration side too. It feels rewarding because there's a ton of items to find, for one, which makes it feel like worth playing. You get to unlock better choices in the voting by talking to certain NPCs.
Absolutely.
And I think, the voting and the whole system behind that gives the game a whole extra dimension.
Oh, the negotiation and
absolutely,
the swing, totally, dude.
Yep, because there's different. I mean, each one of those is going to take you to a completely different place, and so there's, even on my third playthrough, there's several fights that I'm going to end up doing for the first time, and I think that's really sick.
Definitely, man. I'll be where you are before you know it, man. I'm gonna chip away at this.
I'm like a grizzled veteran of this game now.
I'm such a huge fan of it. It really is one of my favorite games. I have to put my money where my mouth is, man, and make way. And so I'm making way.
It's just got me addicted.
Like I said, I'm on like chapter 10, man. I'm getting there. I'm getting through it, and I'm not stopping at one playthrough either.
It's very satisfying, man. I couldn't recommend it if you're out there and curious about this game, and maybe I don't want to spend $60 on it. There's a demo out there. It's free. You can play the first 3 chapters. You can carry over your progress. Just try the demo and see for yourself. That's all I'll say about that.
Yeah, the $60 is well worth it, but don't take our word for it. Fire the demo up.
That's right.
Anyway,
Paper Magic. Sorry, I don't. No. I could talk about triangle strategy all day, but we gotta.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Really, I didn't mean to get off the rails with triangle
Paper
strategy.
Magic is something I've been doing a lot recently. I would say 6 out of the 7 most recent weeks, I've been going to Friday Night Magic. Last Friday, I drafted the new set that just came out, Dominaria United. Had a great time. So been really enjoying getting back into that. It's eaten up some of my video gaming time, obviously, but really enjoying Paper Magic. Like, been very exciting to get back into that in-store play and stuff like that. And then, of course, Slay the Spire. Period. I mean, I talk about this game every podcast.
Yep. If they did this in a store, you'd go and do it. So
it's this, like, this is my number one Steam Deck game. Whenever I'm picking up the Steam Deck, it's already on. Like, you know what I mean?
It's already, you're just getting back in.
Yep. So that's pretty much it, man. But we have a pretty spicy discussion to get into.
We do. Hard to know where to begin, but I think the only appropriate way to begin on this, discussing the RE4 remake, that is.
Yep.
I guess we could just restate our love for RE4. I mean, maybe people get it by now, maybe they don't, but this is one of both of our all-time favorite games.
Yeah.
This is not just another Resident Evil game. This is the one.
Yep. And obviously the screenshot I have here is from Resident Evil 2. That was just because it was hard to find a good quality from the trailer, but
our boy Leon is the one holding the gate. Of course,
yeah. So. But this is what we can expect the game to kind of look like. So this is kind of what I wanted to base our visual on here. I'm pretty excited, man. I like talking about RE4. Our history with the game is significant. Like,
about as significant as it gets.
Yeah, I would say this is up there with our most played games, period. Most purchased games on different consoles, certainly. And like, we've both put hundreds upon hundreds of hours into this game. So for them to be remaking it, obviously it's something that I'm excited about, but at the same time, it's a little scary, right? Because if it's your favorite game, it's almost like your child or like your brother that you grew up with, right? And you're like, what if they hurt my they hurt my son.
Exactly. Or it's like they're cloning
Exactly.
that, and you don't want that to get mistreated. You want that to get the love and care that the original version got.
That's a good analogy.
You know? But thinking about it, like I said, I think we commented briefly on the game, and I said I was going to approach this kind of like with a fresh mind. I think that's what you have to do. As a new game.
Yep.
And I think that might be a safe thing to do, because we were talking about the gap here, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they did RE2 and RE3 in this new RE engine.
Yep.
Which we're going to get it in that engine.
Almost
That's
certainly,
a guarantee. Yeah. So you think about the gap with what they had to do there. I mean, RE2 and RE3 were still tank control. You know, they still were following a formula. RE4, like you said, that was the beginning of the new RE formula.
Yeah, 100%.
So this is pulling from the roots of what it does. So now they're not going to have to make it so drastically different. The question is whether or not they will, and how far they take it in what direction. Adding content, removing content. That's the type of shit we have to weigh out ahead of time, man.
Absolutely. I would hate to see certain areas of the game get chopped, right? There's only 3 major segments of the game. So if one of those was substantially less, that would be pretty disappointing to start.
Yeah, length in this case, if they duplicated the length, is not an issue.
Not at all.
The one of the charms of RE4 is the playthroughs that follow up.
No question.
Carrying your shit over and keeping it going.
Yep.
So, you know, length is not an issue. I don't think they need to lengthen or shorten the game by any means. But, you know, we're not a boardroom that thinks we know what the people want in a remake.
Correct. We just know what we want.
Yeah, and of course we're going to be picky fucks because we're such big fans of the game. But I'm just wondering, in your opinion, do you think they're going to come out with a lot of cuts or a lot of additions that lead to changes that call for cuts?
I definitely see them heavily changing the story, or at least significantly changing the story to make a little bit more sense, right? Like the story. I could
see them just keeping the aspect that it's Leon going save the president's daughter, and then they do whatever else they want with that.
Yeah, I hope not, because I feel like so much of the game is iconic. Maybe it's not to others, but like to have any one section missing feels like a travesty. But if you are considering that they may add something in its place that might be also enjoyable, then that's not so bad, right? It just depends on what it is. So I don't know. Certain things are essential. I think you're going to see most of the village. I think that is what is iconic to most people. So you're not going to see them chop that. I could see them drastically shortening the castle. I could see them cutting the island entirely. I could see them doing a whole different thing with that.
Now, I think the village is going to be very intact, but I think it's going to have a lot more of a Sleepy Hollow vibe to it. That's what we've seen, you know.
Sure.
When we get a little bit of a glimpse of what I thought was him getting into the village, it almost looked a lot more like when he's getting into the castle. Does that make sense?
In terms of atmosphere?
Atmosphere.
Yeah. I completely
time of
feel
day,
you.
Look of the trees,
for sure.
You know, that type of thing.
Yeah,
but I have a feeling that they're going to really amp up the horror on the village. To us, it was horrifying, but it was broad daylight.
It was broad daylight, and it was also, you can only do so much on the GameCube. Nowadays, you can do a lot more graphically, so that we may see, you know, when you think about something like a plaga bursting out of someone's head without even being prompted. The first time we saw that as a kid, right, in like chapter 2.
As stuttery as it is, yeah.
Yeah, that was like, oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, you see it 1,000 times and it becomes just funny. But now we're going to see that in visceral 4K, right? So I think that'll be interesting to see if like how much more horrifying they do make it. Stuff like regenerators, Iron Maidens, those things can definitely be turned up. I mean, just the atmosphere of a regenerator when you first start playing the game, that's legitimately scary.
That's one of the scariest sections of the game. And it's even scarier afterwards when you realize you can't just blow this thing away.
Yeah, absolutely. So when I think about stuff like that, it's exciting. And I don't want to let my fanboyism tamper my excitement, because I am excited. It's not until like 2024 that we're expecting this game, right? It's not even next year, I don't think.
I think it's going to be quite a wait on it. Yeah, it might be 2024, but
I feel like it's going to be an early 2024, March, April type situation. So we got a long time to get a trickle of information out. I feel like they're just like they probably have just really gotten into development on the game.
Yeah, and normally I'm not one to be all in on a non-Nintendo $60 release.
This is a no-brainer.
This is a whole different story.
Here's a question. Being that it is graphically advanced, what system do you see yourself purchasing this? Assuming it's available on all normal major platforms, because
Steam for the Steam Deck.
But you don't want a physical of this.
I would love a physical of it, but it would mean I'd have to get it for the Xbox.
Exactly. Because a Switch version doesn't really excite me a little, because this, you understand why. It doesn't seem exciting on the Switch to me.
Well, I had no inclination that this would ever come to Switch. That's
you didn't think so at all?
Oh, definitely.
I guess the other games haven't been on Switch.
No,
that's a good point. I don't know why I thought that.
Yeah, they haven't gone past, the remakes of like the first one and Zero and shit like that. Mm-hmm. Understandably so. These are very demanding games that look very well, very nice.
I think 6 is on the Switch, but yeah, not the most recent new engine games.
No, so I knew it wasn't going to be on the Switch, but when I think about it, it'd be nice to own. I have 2 physical Xbox One games that I purchased myself because I wanted them badly.
Yeah.
But even with the Xbox, I'm not opposed to digital. I don't play Xbox much, but
maybe there will be a Switch 2 at this point, and we can discuss the merits at that point.
I want this physical, but I would love it on Steam. Love it on the Steam Deck, PC. So maybe I could just be comfortable with having our GameCube RE4 on the shelf.
Yeah.
Definitely. I don't know. That's how I feel about it. But you do raise a very interesting point, because this is exactly the type of shit we feel like we need physical.
Absolutely.
It's just the systems I play and I'm active on.
Of course.
It just makes sense to get it on the deck, man. I'm going to want to put time into it. Now, this is another thing. They've already come out with other iterations of Mercenaries. Do you think this shit's coming packaged with the Mercenaries we know and love remastered?
I really hope so. I could see them going either way with it. I could see it not including it at all. I could see it being included completely different. I could also see it being the same. And I could also see it being DLC. So who knows?
I think they might, I could be wrong, but they might do a No Way Out thing, like what they did with RE2, where perhaps they put a Simon Ada and maybe some new side story shit surrounding RE4.
I think it should have that. I think that's one thing I would expect it to have is additional playability with different characters to some degree.
Yeah, like a Lewis scenario to go with the Ada.
That would be awesome.
Yeah, that would be just sick. Like a Lewis scenario that spans a certain area of like
they could do
chapter
that.
1 to 2.
They could expand Ada into a bit more of a wide-reaching thing instead of the kind of like drop in, drop out type of thing that assignment Ada is, right?
Like
Give
for
her
example,
more of a full story.
exactly.
That would be
RE2,
cool.
they did Leon and Claire. You could play from both angles.
Yeah.
Imagine playing RE4 in its entirety from Ada's perspective.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
That'd be completely different. So that's another thing. We might get a scenario situation where we finish with Leon and we have another character to play through with, Ada being the one that makes sense.
Or it could be a back and forth, right? You could play through and it would be it would be like a back and forth situation. I don't know.
Because
I don't know if
that
they would
exists.
do that.
They did that in RE2.
That's what I figured, yeah.
Like you actually have a section where you play as Ada before it cuts back to Leon, and that type of shit happens. I could see them doing that with this for sure. But I think the design of things is going to be something that's interesting. You were talking about the Regenerator, the Iron Maiden. You wonder how true they're going to stay to the more basic things like Salvador.
Sure. Or just regular Ganados.
Yeah. Now, they sure made some strides with how the zombies behave.
Absolutely.
As we've seen in 2 and 3. I mean, we can expect the behavior of the Ganados to be much less predictable than it was in the original.
Much more aggressive, probably.
Definitely.
And much more trolly. I think there will be a lot more guys in the oven situations.
And you know something that's going to be present in this that was not present in the other ones is all of a sudden the villagers, zombies, the main mass enemy of the game, now we're going to be wielding some weapons.
Yep.
That shoot things sometimes.
Absolutely.
So that's another interesting
Grenades.
element.
I mean, you have stun batons.
Dynamite.
You've got guys with Gatling guns, right? JJ.
Bow and arrows, yeah.
Absolutely. Like, you have all kinds of different weapons, and it gets harder. Like, the regular Ganados get harder as the game goes on, for sure. You can tell that in a hard playthrough when you get one shot by one of these stun wand guys.
Yep. So that's going to be really interesting also to have. It's probably going to be a bit more tactical, dealing with some of these, like a zealot that's up high with a bow and arrow.
Yep.
In these other games, if something's out, not in arm's reach, it's not much of a threat.
Certain boss fights, I mean, you think about the U3 or It, that has the potential to be terrifying. That's probably the most heart-pounding boss fight in the game, I would say.
Definitely, because of the restriction.
The movement restriction, the timed nature of it. If you don't have a strong weapon for some reason, you could, really have a hard time in that boss fight. Obviously, we know how to kind of cheese it at this point. Yep. And we know the exact A to B to C place to go for the fight, and that makes it a little less.
You're not going to frazzle us on the It boss, and pro or not, we got that shit down.
Yeah, for sure.
And
but that's not going to be the
Magnum
case.
into it.
Yeah. But I would like to see that not be a thing in this game, right? And I don't think so. We know how to manipulate. We know how to manipulate the enemies in RE4 to do whatever, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's just how it is. And I think this is going to be much different from an AI perspective, like you said. And that's going to be pretty exciting.
We're also making a transition from the old traditional storage box method to an attaché case upgrade system that RE4 brought in.
Potentially. I mean, that's what RE4 was. We'll see if it could be completely different. That type of thing is something I could see them changing completely.
I could see them changing it also. I could see storage boxes being a thing. That calls into question how true to the original they are.
And that's the thing, right? It could be a completely different UI, inventory, map. I mean, none of that stuff has to work the same necessarily. I hope it does, but you don't, it could be completely different.
Because the storage box and limited inventory on 2 and 3 really impact how you play the game.
I could see them changing how health works, the whole health system with just yellow herbs. like being your way to increase your max health, and that could do for a little freshening up just in general, right? Like I think I could see them easily changing that around.
Yeah, herbs will be present. We'll see if they still have the same qualities.
Yeah, and if that's the only way to interact with your character's health, right? There was herbs, eggs, and first aid sprays, and that was literally it. So we'll see if that's still the case.
It's gonna feel weird knifing snakes through boxes in this new RE4.
Yeah, but I'm excited, man. I think it's gonna be sweet. I hope that all the core elements are there and just they add more. Like if they keep everything, but then they just add much more content, that's the best case scenario for me. You add as much as you want, change the story. You know, if you have to cut a thing or two here or there to make a better story happen, you're not going to crush me with that. I don't need it to be carbon copied, but as long as the core elements are there and the content has kind of stayed consistent, then, you know, that's all I really ask.
Yeah, like I said, fresh set of eyes, dude. We got to go into it with we can't be so 1-1 with the comparison to the original. But I'll tell you what, I'm really looking forward to reviewing this when it comes out. That's going to be
question.
There's going to be too much to talk about. That's usually when we do these, we just go in and we have a completely authentic discussion. I feel like that's something we're going to have to make some serious notes on to be able to cover everything. Because we're going to talk about shit that's so small, like the eggs, for example. Let's see if the eggs are even still there.
Right.
Let's see if the fish are still there to kill and just, you know, like
something like the blue pendants in the graveyard in the village
for the free Punisher.
Yep. That could be gone, like totally different, right? Like we'll just see how much of this stuff is the same.
Definitely. Hopefully a lot of it's the same. I'm like you said, best case scenario is you hop into this and you're totally familiar with it. It just has a fresh coat of paint on it, but the progression through it feels like you're playing it.
I imagine they could really do a lot with stuff like the boulder, right? Maybe you make that emotion, maybe you make that emotion thing, or, you know, you can integrate some new element with that and still keep it feeling the same. Quick time events, I have no issues if they mess around with what that's like, because like going back and playing the quick time events on GameCube feels a little dated, right? I mean, so they definitely can polish that up as well.
One thing we could say for sure, I'm pretty sure that our iconic lines that we love from the game are all going to be gone.
They're going to be gone, man. It's going to be a completely new script, completely new dialogue.
Yep.
No more, no thanks, bro.
Yep. Or you got to smoke, got gum, that type of shit. I just don't see it being there, man.
No. But hopefully there are some fun Easter eggs and call-outs. You know, that's what we would most be excited to see.
I think they'll do a little more fan service with this one than they did with the other ones, because you got to think about the big difference here, Tyler. They're going into this with the criticism and feedback of the other two. Mm-hmm. And they got a lot of time here. They've had a long time to take that on board, yeah. So I have a feeling that they're going to take into account that a wide majority of the people that are going to be getting in on this are very familiar with RE4.
Absolutely.
And this is not their first outing into the Resident Evil world. I think they're very well aware of that, because they got a lot of flack for 3, just for the length and, you know, just how quick you can get through it. And the content in 2 as opposed to 3 makes me think that, you know, all of that lashback they got is going to make sure that 4 has the same or more content as 2 as far as original game versus release, you know, new release.
Absolutely.
So
any other thoughts on this?
Nah, man. Just looking forward to it. It'll be funny to come back to this and see maybe if we called something, or see if we were completely wrong on everything. I think we covered enough ground for something we said. We
have to be right about something. A lot of these things are either or. So,
yeah. But I think it was about time that we touched on this, because we
definitely
briefly talked about it and kind of caught up on it after it was hot news, but it's something we had to dive into at some point before it actually comes out.
Yeah, because we covered the leaks on this, and then even before that, we've speculated heavily that this was going to be a thing. So we will eventually see this come to fruition.
And I can't wait for the day, bro.
But we are going to get into our top 5 indies now. Sterling, you have picked 5 plus 1 honorable mention games that are hidden gems, things that are not often or as often talked about us. There's a few on here that we've talked about, but mostly this is going to be stuff that is a little bit off the beaten path. I wanted to give kind of the heavy hitting staples, so it'll be a little bit of back and forth, but my list is going to focus on if you have a system that these games are on, you should own it. And that's, and like, I would be surprised if you didn't know about it, but these are the big boys in the category.
And when Tyler read his list to me, I mean, if I was doing a top 5 all-time indies, hands down, Tyler's got a couple of mine on his list, so we're going to have a lot to talk about.
It's meant to be a more definitive...
Yeah. My approach was I'm trying to get some love and appreciation for what I consider to be some underappreciated games.
Absolutely.
So I found this a good little spot to do that in.
Let's hear your honorable mention indie hidden gem, bro.
My honorable mention is going to be Axiom Verge. And like I told you, this is just because this might be the one I put the least time into. But, I'm a big fan of the whole Metroidvania formula. So when you make an indie game following that formula, and it looks as close to Super Metroid and feels like that, but still has that new flair feel to it. That's a really cozy place, and that's what I find in Axiom Verge. Beautiful pixel work. It really does look like it would have been on Super Nintendo. It's just got just enough polish to know it's a newer indie, though. But just from what I've played of it, man, I think this game deserves a lot of love, and I think it might be a little overlooked next to some other Metroidvanias, stuff like Hollow Knight, and shit that's really, really popular.
Absolutely.
You might play a lot of Hollow Knight and really like that game a lot, but then not realize there's things out there like Axiom Verge.
Definitely.
That do that same formula so well.
For sure.
It could be nostalgia speaking, because it really calls back to Super Metroid like big time. But regardless of the inspiration, man, great game from what I played so far, and I think it's an indie hidden gem, no question.
All right. Well, my honorable mention is going to be a game that you actually purchased for me, I believe, and that is going to be Tome.
Christmas in July.
Yes, sir. You can find that episode on our YouTube channel, youtube.com. Search for Star Road Podcast. Tome, this game is adorable. It's a photography exploration first/third/second person. It's just a delight. I mean, you get kind of the best part of the game is just the multiple perspectives that you get with your top-down view and your fully 360 rotating camera paired with your first-person camera lens view. I mean, that gives the game such a dynamic feeling for such a simple environment. It feels like they can really put something relevant on every square inch of the environment in this game. And that is really, really beautiful. And I definitely recommend it.
And I recommend it as well. A big thing I'm a fan of here, the voxely 3D models just mixed in with the hand-drawn assets.
Absolutely.
Makes you think of Bravely Default. Of course, they take that to the next level. But that's something I really loved about it. Just certain things are 3D, certain things aren't. But the way it meshes together is just beautifully perfect.
Definitely.
And I just thought about something. When you're walking around in Tome, how kind of you can move the camera in 360. It's almost exactly like exploration mode and triangle strategy. It almost feels like you're moving about in the same fashion.
It's the same mechanic for sure.
Yeah. And it lets you see everything. It lets you see on the other side of a house. It lets shit like that.
That's a great comparison.
Wonderful game, man. Wonderful pick. The next up on the list for me, I've talked about it in the past, maybe more so than recent, but when it comes to underappreciated games, this is a big one, man. Moonlighter.
Yeah, you've talked about this one a good few times.
I have, and this is one that has got to be underappreciated because the sales it's been going on for so long must mean that people aren't buying it, and I can't fathom why not. The sales it's gone, I've told you before, you can get like the complete, you can get the game sometimes for $4 and you get the DLC with it for like $6, man. But this is a game that I was enthusiastic enough to get a physical for and then keep it on the underappreciated thing.
Yeah.
When I went to go pick up my physical for it at my local GameStop, of course, I was the only one who ordered it, who pre-ordered it physically. So I actually got given the display copy. Didn't even get handed a sealed one. They said the only one they had to give me was the display copy.
Interesting.
Now, of course, it was in fine condition, and it still had the manual. This game comes with a beautiful full-color manual. Gotta mention that. Okay. But this is a great game. If you love dungeon crawlers, if you love the selling items, especially this, there's it's almost like an auction setting where you put your items out, open your shop up. Sometimes the NPCs will offer money for something. You could turn them down. You could take their offer. If you make the price on something ridiculous, they'll ignore the item completely. Mm-hmm. You have to actually be in touch with the market.
Yeah.
And
that sounds fun.
Kind of like some old school RuneScape shit. Like you're not just going to throw something up.
It made me think of Roller Coaster Tycoon.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah, because like if you set the ticket prices too high, nobody's going to come to your park.
Oh, yeah, no shit. That is a good comparison. But I just feel like this game, for all the reasons that I listed, this is a very underappreciated game. And whenever it goes on these sales, I highly advise everybody pick it up. It's a fantastic game.
Awesome. My number 5 is going to be a game that you and I both love. You've put a lot more time into it than I have, but Stardew Valley.
You'll never put the time into this game that I have.
No,
you'll never
probably
catch up.
not. But I have started getting into it, and I must say I can understand how you would put so much time into it. I feel the hours, start to slip away after only minutes, and I haven't really dedicated a ton into it yet, but I know that the first good session that I get to sit down with this game, it's going to go by like in the blink of an eye.
Oh man, I couldn't put the time I put into this game again if I tried. And if there's any confusion on my fandom, I got the framed soundtrack and handbook and the framed map of Stardew Valley.
Yep.
This would be on my top 5 all-time indies, hands down. This is just the gold standard of indie game, and I'm glad that you're seeing the light on it. I'm really glad to
absolutely.
hear that.
And I knew I was gonna love it. I just like you just said, I know that it takes time, and that's just one thing that is very sparing for both of us these days.
Yeah. But at one point, I remember getting off of work and just sitting around for a few hours every day and just grinding this shit, man. And it equals up. I mean, I've got hundreds of hours on Switch, hundreds on Steam. I haven't really picked it up in a while, but like I've always said, man, if you ever wanted to get a farm going big time, we should definitely think about doing that. It's very fun co-op. Great pick, though, man. I mean, there's not many greater picks when it comes to indie talks in Stardew Valley for me.
What you got next for us, bro?
The next one for me is going to be Bloodstained Curse of the Moon 2. I'm a big fan of any Bloodstained game. Yep. Ritual of the Night was the 3D big one. But as a holdover, they came out with Curse of the Moon, which is a, Castlevania 2D old school retro vibey game. Mm-hmm. What I like about 2 is it calls back to one of my favorite games, and that's Castlevania 3, Dracula's Curse.
Yep.
You get that on-the-fly character swap functionality. And it doesn't hurt here that one of those characters you can swap to is a corgi and a mech.
That sounds awesome.
It is pretty awesome. But you have so many different options of how you can play through a level because all these characters play so differently. It creates a lot of strategy. Sometimes it's a clear-cut option, like you're going to use this character to get past this point. But there's a lot of freedom in how you can get through a lot of stretches of these levels and boss fights and whatnot, to where you might prefer one character more than I do, and you might be more comfortable blazing through with that character. And also, you're kind of managing the energy and the special points you use to cast certain attacks. You kind of have to keep track of that.
Sure.
And swap characters accordingly. Anyway, they just did a fantastic job with this game. This is it throws right back to Castlevania 3. That was basically the point. I mean, to create a fresh game that gives you that old school Castlevania vibe, and they hit it right on the head with these. I just had to pick 2 just for the Dracula's Curse callback, the character swapping. Love it. They did a great job with this one.
Yeah. Great pick, man. I have Ritual of the Night installed on the deck. I definitely have an interest in it, and I know that these 2 games also look great.
Oh, yeah. If you haven't played Ritual of the Night, I think you'll enjoy it very much. Another great Metroidvania game.
Yeah. My next pick, The Binding of Isaac Rebirth. This is a game that I've just started getting back into. I love roguelikes and, everything associated. This game mechanically is perfect for what the Steam Deck is doing. So it's natural that I would get back into it. It's a little more active than something like Slay the Spire, which is what has led me to not play it as much, just because I like to Steam Deck and TV on the couch, with the wife. That's my main thing, and Slay is perfect for that. But this game is fantastic. I know you picked it up. Have you had a chance to get into it yet?
I haven't, because I feel like when I get into it, I don't want to just play it for 10 minutes, man. I want to get on it and do like I did with Hotline Miami.
Get this installed on the deck. And
it's installed on the deck.
Yeah.
It is. It's installed. I have not fired it up yet, and I'm so late. I totally understand that.
I have not played this game as much as I should either. It's on my list, but this is almost like a predictive addition to my list because I plan on playing this a lot more in the near future.
Yeah, I have no reason to not have fired it up. It's installed on the deck, installed on PC.
Some of the themes I think will be very interesting to you. I think that
it's very interesting to me that this game's got like 600 to 700 achievements for it. That's not something you see on every game on Steam.
No, that's pretty funny.
But that's wild.
It's intimidating.
It is intimidating. Maybe that's part of why I haven't fired it up, man. Once I get into it, I'm going to want to really get through it.
Nah, that's a lot of achievements, man. That's a lot of freaking achievements.
But I would imagine with a game like this, though, that there's achievements that pop for so many random things.
For sure.
There's like 700
there's a lot of
them.
RNG to it where you'll just get them over time, I imagine.
Yeah. I'm going to hop into this too, though, man. No reason not to. I picked it up on a really good sale a while back.
I think you'll be playing the game and comfortable with it within 5 minutes. That's one thing will say.
I'm sure, man.
The story is minimal, and it's really just about getting in there and getting going.
Well, I'm ready to get with it.
Let's hear your next pick, man.
What is this, my number 3?
I believe so.
It's going to be Wargroove. Now, as far as RTS games go on the Switch, man, before we had Advance Wars 1 and 2 and Triangle Strategy and things like that, we had a very good game to fill that slot, and that was Wargroove, man. And I never really talked to anybody else who had played it. I had just picked it up because I needed that type of game on the Switch, I felt.
Absolutely.
It was something that called to me. This game has a beautiful art style, has story. It's fully fleshed out. It's what you'd want out of an RTS, but this one goes above and beyond just because they have a whole community aspect to it that is so absent in Switch titles. You're not used to. It's kind of like Mario Maker.
Okay.
But but maybe even a little more specific because you can look things up. But you can just go and see what the most popular community campaigns and maps are. And that kind of makes the game endlessly replayable.
That's awesome. That sounds really fun.
Just imagine if we had a community tab on Triangle Strategy. And
if you could build your own maps and scenarios in that game, that would be incredible.
It's wild.
It's one of the reasons I'm sad that the game is not as popular as I would want, because I wish there was like a modding community for that game and stuff. Maybe when it comes to Steam, that would be amazing.
I guarantee you, and that's exactly the type of shit that would make us buy it again. There's a whole community workshop full of new shit.
It would be a no-brainer for me at that point.
It would have to happen. The more now that we're talking about that, I feel like it would absolutely have to happen.
Yeah, because that's
460
for sure. I mean, well, maybe it depends. I would hope if there's community content. That's going to be when I'm going to want to pick the game up, whenever that happens.
Definitely. But Wargroove, they did just that, man. I mean, there's a whole creator mode.
That's awesome, and that's just built in. Almost
in.
Like a Little Big Planet style, where it's like, I know you haven't played it as much, but there's like one of the main ways to play is just to load into people's random worlds and play them. And I think that's awesome.
That is really awesome. So shout out to Wargroove, man. They gave us that scratch to the itch we needed with what Triangle Strategy ultimately gave us, and Tactics Ogre's Reborn is going to give us. This was here before, and I just had to give a shout out to it, man. It's a great game. How about your next one? Inscription.
This game is one of the most. It's basically, imagine a card-based story game that has two other card-based story games hidden within it. That's really all I'm gonna say, but it's absolutely fantastic, and I'm not gonna really spoil it. The game has almost an ARG element to it. Which
Definitely
is extremely fun for me because I love ARGs. People have probably seen me wear my Marble Hornets shirt before on this podcast. But yeah, if you like that type of stuff, you're going to be right at home here. And if you like games that play with the definition of what a video game is and play with the format a little bit, that type of stuff gets me really excited. And for that reason, Inscription has to be on my list.
And I think this is one I talked you into buying, and it might be the happiest I am that you dove on something.
This and Loop Hero are both in that same vein where you put me onto them in a big way.
Yep, and just when I got to the second of the three, games you said were hidden within this, just getting into the second section of this game, I was like, I need Tyler to play this shit now.
Yep. Yeah, you really pushed me towards it, and I'm glad that you did.
It's just a great game. Great pick. It definitely deserves to be mentioned in the indie talks. It's a big one. The next one on my list, it stems from a pretty widely known game, Creatures of Aether.
Yep.
Now, we talk about Rivals nonstop. And it's a pretty known game, That's the type of game I would put on a top 5 indies. It'd be like Stardew and, Rivals, shit like that. But Creatures of Aether is a deck building card game in the world of Rivals of Aether,
Yep.
And it's not something I bring up on gaming and pickups or anything like that, but it is a game that I play on a regular basis, but not for long periods of time. I hop on, check my daily shit. You get daily rewards, and sometimes you get a pack you can open, shit like that.
I do the same with Magic Arena.
Yeah. So most of the time, I know 7 p.m. my time is when they do like a reset. It rolls over, that type of thing. And so I try to catch it before and after 7 when I can. You get busy and shit, but dumped a lot of time into this game. And had a lot of fun with it, man. I still got a pretty good little deck going with it. You could play it completely free.
Yeah.
That's worth mentioning because, a lot of these indies...
do, right, for the most part.
Yeah, I think when I first bought in, I think I spent $5 to $10. Like there was like a season pack
Just
when
getting
I was
set up.
diving
Yeah,
in.
I usually buy like the mastery pass on Arena.
It just so happened that you see they do these season passes, and each one is going to have like a themed hero.
Yep.
And it just so happened that when I got on, Zetterburn was the themed hero.
Nice.
So that's why I was like, fuck it. I'll just drop the $5, $10 or whatever. And that's the only money I've spent. But I found that once you actually get into the season pass or whatever I purchased, you get rewards every season.
Mm-hmm.
You get a shit ton of coins and a bunch of stuff every time a season wraps up, to where I haven't even needed to touch real money for this game after you get a season pass or whatever. But it's a great game, man. It was based off of the card game. What was it, in Final Fantasy IX, I believe?
Oh yeah.
I think that's the heavy inspiration for it. If I'm wrong about that, it was from Final Fantasy. But it's a great little card game. It's not the most complex by any means of the deck building games we play, but it's definitely worth mentioning. It's a very fun game with a lot of strategy built in. And great on the deck, man. I got to tell you, like, Loop Hero, I know I beat Omega on the Steam Deck and everything. That was not with touch controls. I found a nice little community config.
I do too. I don't use touch controls either. I move the cursor with the thumbstick. Me too. And I hate to get off the rails with that, but I wanted to tell you the touch controls on the Steam Deck for Loop Hero are miserable. Let's go ahead and get into my number 2.
Yeah, let's do that.
My number 2. What's up?
Rolling off of Creatures of Aether, though, I just wanted to say, in comparison, the touch controls are fantastic.
Okay, I got you.
On Creatures of Aether.
Perfect. Well, that's a great segue because my number 2 is, in fact, Loop Hero. I think this game stands above, like, it's in its own category, right?
It truly is.
It really has something special. And without playing it, it's hard to really know. It's basically, I mean, it's a tower defense game at its core, kind of. It's like the opposite of a tower defense game. It's like a you're setting up tower defense, but you're the person trying to invade, like, kind of. You're collecting resources from this world and you're building out the world as you go through. And you just have to play it to understand, but it's extremely satisfying and it's very addictive. I mean, the gameplay loop is, it just is very exciting to progress, and it feels very, it's not an easy game, but it's extremely easy to play.
Definitely. And I'm proud of you for even attempting to explain this game, because it really is its own genre.
It's hard to explain, for sure.
It's so hard to explain, but in such a short period of time, this game has truly risen the ranks up into shit in my mind, like Stardew Valley, Terraria.
Absolutely.
It truly is an indie gem. I mean,
no question.
Hidden or not, it is one of the best indie games you can get. And the fact that it goes on the sales it goes on, you could almost argue that your Loop Hero pick falls under the underappreciated. I didn't think about that at first. But for this game to be going on sale like it does, man, I know it's not exactly brand spanking new, but
it's a high impact game.
It is a high impact game.
For sure.
And
you find yourself thinking about this game when you're not playing it, or at least I do. Like
you said, the music haunts your dreams.
It really does. If I play this game before bed, I will wake up with the music 100% on loop in my head.
It's a great pick. It would probably be top 5 indie greats for me. No question. And that's a big statement, man.
Well, let's get to your number 1, man.
My number 1 is Cruelty Squad. I sat down and because getting into Gloomwood and just, I told you earlier, Dusk HD is going to be coming out. That's a pretty cool thing I'm looking forward to. I'm going to play all the way back through Dusk just to play it in HD. I'm a huge fan of that game. Cruelty Squad I see as truly underappreciated just because it's not under the New Blood flag. It doesn't have any type of affiliation.
Sure, yeah.
To give it any type of boost. It's just by consumer soft products. You don't know who it is. No one knows who it is. You know what I mean? It's just it's such an isolated title. That was in early access for such a long time, and I was with it quite a while along the way. But I had to put this on here because when you get into a shooter, a lot of times you know what to expect.
Yep.
You have no idea what you are getting into with Cruelty Squad.
Yeah.
I know what you're getting into, but you personally would never have a single bit of an idea what you're getting yourself into with this game. They almost redefined what a shooter is with this.
Can you give an example?
Well, first of all, like, just a quick example. To keep it simple, the reload. To reload, you actually have to slide your mouse down and back up to like cock your gun.
I see.
Mechanically, there's some interesting things like that. Fishing is a mechanic in the game.
Okay.
Where you can sell fish and also body parts, organs on a black market that's always accessible from the menu.
Interesting. Okay.
Everything about it is completely bizarre. The textures in the game are nauseating. The music is nauseating. If someone said the game looked like shit,
you can't really argue.
You couldn't argue, but I love it. I think it looks fucking beautiful.
Another one of those that plays around with the format.
And it's so existential. There's a lot of
interesting
existential themes within this. The shit that the
That's
NPCs
when you start piquing
say,
my interest in a real way.
Oh man, I could sit here all day and talk. I could do a whole episode on Cruelty Squad, but just none of it makes any sense. But when you get to the end of the game and you get a little bit of text insight of any type, you can make some sense of it. You know, it's kind of like it's like a testament to capitalism, consumerism, whatever you want to call it, just the greed and the pointless want for more and more and more, but it having no end result. You know, it's a pretty dim game, pretty hopeless game, but it's kind of funny because it wants you to feel showered in glory at the end, but there's no glory to be had, really.
That's fun. Yeah, I like that, man. That sounds interesting.
It's just a fantastic game, and I feel like more people should know about it. I could see it putting people off quite a bit. One thing about it that's different, just to wrap up, this is not a game where you're going to be running through and you're going to be pop, wrecking every NPC around. They're hyper aware of you, and it is realistic in the sense that they can headshot you and you're dead.
Fair enough.
So this is one of those games where you're going to be restarting and restarting and restarting. There is never going to be a situation where you go through this whole game and you just never get killed. Because it's funny that there's even a life bar. I know what you see on the screenshot there. Your life bar is this bizarre blob that's 3D rendered. That's always moving and kind of like
reminds me of a Bug's Life with the leaf.
Yeah, beating like a slow heart. But to me, it's truly that there's a health bar, because really the health bar is almost meaningless, because almost all damage you take in this game is going to be fatal.
Nice. That's interesting.
So it just had to be mentioned, man. There's so much beneath the surface of this game, and it's not a $5 game. I believe it is a $20 title. So
seems worth it though if it's as good as you say.
Oh man, and you hardly ever see it go on sale. I like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Cruelty Squad, man, couldn't come as a higher recommendation.
That's a great pick, man. My number one, it's going to be the end-all, be-all of indie games for me. It's what we always talk about. Slay the Spire, what's up? You already know. Like, if you know me and us, that's where it is. Roguelike deck-building game. It kind of blazed the trail in that whole genre, which is now getting more and more popular. I've had a few people recommend me other games in this style that I'm very interested in. So Yeah, man. Slay the Spire. Don't need to talk about it all day. I do every episode, so just buy it if you don't have it. That's really all I'll say.
A hard hitter for sure.
It is.
It was hard picking a shooter for the Cruelty Squad when I feel like it came easy to me because that is the underappreciated one. But at first I started looking at these New Blood games and shit like that, some of the more known ones. And I just felt like they already have so much attention on them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, with my approach, I wanted to get something a little bit lesser known and not so promoted. But ending the list off with Slay the Spire for you seems perfectly appropriate for the approach you took. But pretty solid top 5,
yeah,
man. We
covered it from 2 different angles, and I'm actually glad we did. It makes it, the list still seemed to make sense in context. You know,
absolutely.
I'm pretty happy with that.
You picked so much shit I would have picked. Like,
of course,
we talked about it earlier, a little bit of a teaser, but eventually we're gonna do like an indie edition of the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, that's going to happen eventually for sure.
A lot of shit you'll see, especially Tyler's list is going to be on that.
No question. But let's get this 3-shop going, man. We got the most on theme 3-shop ever.
Absolutely. Kicking it off with Gloomwood. As if I wasn't already going to get in on this, they do have an introductory offer. And that's 10% off. Normally $19.99, you can get it for $17.99 until September 19th. Even with just a small discount, I mean, all I can do is recommend it. But this is going to be another Dusk. I really feel like this is going to be very, very popular in the New Blood, at least, scene.
Absolutely.
Just because of the new approach. You're so used to guns blazing, being as loud and chaotic as you can. That's what a lot of these games go for. Something more along the lines of Thief, a little more stealthy, but that just feels so much like Dusk. Just couldn't recommend it more. That's why the sale might not be drastic. But as an introductory off-the-ground offer for an early access game that just went into early access.
It's worth mentioning still.
Definitely worth mentioning. And I'm going to be playing the shit out of this. I'll be talking more about this in later episodes.
Excellent.
And that's for Steam, of course. That's not going to be on Switch.
Yeah.
The next one is on Switch, and that's Goblin Sword. Easily could have been on the Indie Hidden Gems. But that's on sale $4.99 to $1.99, 60% off until the 21st. Not much to say, Tyler, other than a fantastic... It doesn't pretend to be anything. It's not, man. It's a platformer. It's got just enough content in it to keep you searching through levels and going back, upgrading gear, upgrading weapons. It's got a lot more to it than you would expect from a $5 game. And it's done in such a great presentation. It's a beautiful game. I'm sure you could just tell from the screenshot that the pixel work is very well done.
Absolutely. I said when I saw the screenshot, it reminded me of Shovel Knight.
Yeah, and I think that type of comparison can be drawn because Shovel Knight, is one of the standards for very nice pixel art.
Absolutely.
In the game.
But this puts me in the same mindset for sure, like I said.
Absolutely. Staying on theme, this is a little bit of a 2-in-1. Resident Evil 2 and 3 remakes, both on sale. Normally $39.99, $11.99, 70% off until the 19th.
Now, this is a great deal.
It certainly is. I would highly advise if you're going to pick one, pick 2.
Yep, I already have 2, so I'll be picking up 3 for this price before this sale's over. That's no question.
Completely worth it. Absolutely.
But 2 is a huge game for $11.99. What do you want?
Yeah, I was surprised. I had to do a double take and make sure they were both the same price.
No question. People were dropping 60 on 2 when it came out for a while.
Yeah, and
I get that it's been a few years
2,
now.
Completely understandable, but dropping 60 on 3, I enjoyed the shit out of it. I truly did, but there really is a lot more content in 2. There's no arguing it. That's No Way Out scenario aside. Like I said, just the main story, there's way more to two.
Yep.
But the fact that both of these you could pick up for $12, either of them is an easy buy.
Yep. Get them both for less than what one normally costs.
Yeah, and in some cases, both less than what you'd pay for like a single remake of an old ass one.
Absolutely.
Before they had this new RE engine situation. But that's going to do it for the 3 Shop title, and that's going to do it for the almost 2-year anniversary of the podcast.
Hey, it's 2 years, right? Because we'll be way past it next time. So yeah. We'll call it that. But yeah, man.
We're not recording in 2 days.
Happy 2 years. It's been great, right? We've come so far since that first episode, man, but it doesn't feel that long ago.
And here we are talking about RE4. We've come such a long way, haven't we?
So far, and yet so little has changed. But yeah, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, or feedback, feel free to reach out to us at starroadpodcast@gmail.com. We also upload every single episode to YouTube, so feel free to check out the episodes there, like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell. Let us know if you're watching this on YouTube, any topic suggestions you may have, or, anything you'd like to see from us. Always happy to hear, right? So, definitely don't be shy on that aspect.
Yeah, help us plan it out. Shit.
Absolutely. But that's going to bring us to the end, Sterling.
It certainly is. We appreciate everybody listening. I always love coming to do this with you, Tyler. We're exiting until the 2-week mark for the next cycle. But until then, we appreciate everybody listening, and we look forward to the next time.
Peace.